Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aftershock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I'm your host and the Senior Retailer Relations Manager here at Aftershock Comics, RuthAnn Thompson. We have an awesome, jam-packed show for you today with the incredible creator of Bunny Mask and My Date with Monsters, Paul Tobin, followed by our exclusive live sale. But before that, I'm very excited to introduce to you another one of our Pennsylvania ambassadors, Mike Clark. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hello, Rue. Sweet.
Hi. Oh, yes. Cheers to everybody watching and for you. Cheers as well.
Thank you.
Well, it's so perfect to have you on today because Corey spoke so highly of you when we had him on a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah,
thank you again
remind
for
me to
bringing
pay
him
him.
on board. Yeah, he's good stuff. So, like, you were actually one of our original ambassadors here at Aftershock. How did you become an Aftershock fan?
Well, for the last 25 years or so, and I've been reading comics since I was the age of 4. So for the last 25 years, I've been exploring genres outside of superheroes, mainly horror and crime, fantasy, science fiction. So I check out the previous catalog because if you don't pre-order and you're interested in indie books, you're never going to see them unless you make sure your retailer knows you want them. So I saw the announcement, I think back in 2015, about a new publisher, Aftershock, launching, and read a little article. I think there was an interview with Mike March there, and
Hmm.
this sounds good. So I pre-ordered the launch of the first 4 titles, and I think there were Replica, Paul
Yeah.
Jenkins, Dreaming Eagles, Garth Ennis, Insects, Marguerite Bennett, and Super Zero, Jimmy Palmiotti. So I got those. I liked them, and I actually pre-ordered the entire first year run of all the Aftershock titles. So I've been a fan since the launch. So I'm a charter. I'm a
Yeah,
charter reader.
you're the original. I feel like we need to thank you for getting us on the map.
Right. So when I saw the announcement about it was either on in your newsletter or Facebook or maybe right in the back of a comic about looking for ambassadors, I go, this is like, wow, because I'm retired, so I need something to do besides the usual retirement things. So I applied. And actually, the first person at Aftershock I talked to was you.
It was, yes. It was such a pleasure to interview you and get you on board. I knew right away you'd be one of our top ambassadors, and you've not let us down a single second.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have also in the chat here Mitch Gurwitz saying hi to both of us.
Hey,
And
Mitch.
yeah, and yeah, so now I'm very curious though. You said you've been reading since you're 4. What was your first comic that you really remember or really just hooked you?
Well, that would be sitting on the lap of my mother or father, and they're reading to me. So it was
Oh,
most likely like Walt Disney comics and stories. I think the first subscription I had was Looney Tunes
I
on
love
in
it.
Gold Key Comics.
I love it. That's so great. So,
Way
as an
back.
ambassador, do you want to tell us a little bit about the shops that you visit and how
Yeah,
you've known
I'd be
them?
glad to. These shops are all great. There's no mega shops here. They're all medium size, single ownership, but they really do a good job. I'm going to go north to south. I have 6 shops, 4 in Pennsylvania, 2 in Delaware. Start with Comic Universe in Folsom, PA, and from there go south to the Comic Book Shop in Wilmington, Delaware. A little bit further south and west over to Captain Blue Hen Comics in Newark, Delaware. And then right here in Oxford, PA, my hub is Maroon Hornet Comics. And then over to Lancaster, Pennsylvania for the comic store. I think Captain Blue Hen and the comic store may be tied for the longest running shops. They've been in existence for over 35 years. And then a newer store over on the other side of Lancaster called Fourth Wall Comics.
That's right.
Good
And
group of people.
were any of these your specific like LCS that you were visiting even before you were an
Uh,
ambassador?
Cap- Captain Captain Blue Hen was my main go-to store, and then when Maroon Hornet opened up about 5 years ago, I started to split between the two, and I would often go to Comic Book Shop because I like the owners there, Sarah and Titus. They're a little bit further from me. That's the furthest out store, actually that one in Comic Universe. And what I enjoy most about this is not only do I get to see get to talk up comics, which I love, but I get to see this business from two different ends. I've always been interested in the business, so I've learned an awful lot in the 2 years I've been doing this from these comic shops. They're all smart, savvy. They have to be to get through the shutdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so great the work you've been doing with them and chatting with them and bringing them promotional materials every month. So I just can't thank you enough for being a part of the ambassador program. So for you, what are your top titles with Aftershock this month? What have been really hooking you?
Oh boy, how many am I allowed to talk about?
Yeah, let's see, we'll give you 1 minute. Go.
Okay. Whoop. My Day
Nice.
with Monsters. This book has everything. You've got a mixed mash of horror, science fiction, fantasy, and romance. The dating app from hell.
Yeah. Quite
Uh,
literally in some ways.
Second favorite, Chicken Devil. This has been described as the Punisher meets Ronald McDonald. So, so you have that's his promotional chicken suit, owner of a hot chicken franchise, and he runs afoul of the mob. His partner owes him a lot of money, and suddenly the business goes awry. So the mob starts to take it out on his family, and he accidentally kills one of the mobsters. I think he slips on grease. So that's a
I,
great one.
I liked your pun there that you fit in the a foul of the mob. Well done. Well played.
Great. Cross the Bear. Everybody likes books with Jack the Ripper, and if you like this one, check out The Heathens because that's another one featuring Jack the Ripper. But this one is really interesting to me because of the organization, religious order called the Order. They go back beyond the time of Knights Templar, and they're kind of strange, in my opinion, and they're more interesting than Jack the Ripper. They've got some pretty strict rules, and one of their members breaks away. He decides, I'll just go hide in the American West and I can forget about the order. Well, it seems like Jack the Ripper decided, I got to get out of London. It's too hot here. So he moves to the American West, coincidentally, the same town. So the order follows him, obviously, because he's on their hit list. And this wannabe guy to left, he gets sucked back in again, much to his regret. And then, of course, hey, Maniac in New York. Amazing,
Yes, just
amazing
came
book.
out. So
Second
good.
series, um, Harry the Maniac in a high school.
Yep.
And kids, put down your cell phones, put down those smartphones, and pay attention to what's going on in the hallways.
Well, all excellent choices. I see in the chat that Picture This News Media absolutely agrees with everything that you're saying.
Well,
So
thank you.
well done. And just thank you so much, not only for being an ambassador with us, but also joining us today. And
It's like a
just
family.
it really
And
is.
before I go, I just want to give a shout out to some other ambassadors. I love them all, but these ones are the couple that I correspond with on a regular basis. Corey Bell, obviously, in Philadelphia, Russ Singer in New York, Justin McCuna in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Steve Lowe in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi, guys.
That's so great. Well, thank you again, Mike, for joining us. And for all those who are watching, we
Thanks
are
for
still
having me.
looking for one more ambassador in Long Island, New York, because our ambassador is moving actually. So we're going to give him some
Yeah,
other shops in his new place. But Mike, thank you again so much for joining us today.
thank you. Take care.
Take care. And for everybody else, stay tuned because we have the incredible Paul Tobin coming up. Oh, hey everyone, it's Rue from the Aftershock Epicenter. I just want to remind you guys that we had some incredible titles come out for yesterday's new comic book day on December 1st. Not only did we have the brand new #1 of Maniac of New York, The Bronx is Burning, we also had Cross the Bear #2, Search for Who #3, and then the final issue of Campese with #4. So make sure if you haven't reached out to your local comic book shop yet, make sure you get out there and get those books as soon as possible. All right, and now back to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aftershock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I am so excited to have the incredible creator of Bunny Mask and My Date with Monsters, as well as a New York Times bestselling author, Paul Tobin. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. Everything's fantastic in Portland. It's usually raining, and I love rain. And I get to talk comics. So
I know, right? It's just all incredible things. So you
everything's
have
working
been,
out.
yeah, it's working out pretty great. You have been prolific writer for since like the 90s. And so usually what we like to start off with when we talk to our creatives is what was the first comic book that you remember reading and picking up and really hooking you as a kid?
Oh, like when Mike was just talking about like his early books, it's like to me like Looney Tunes were some of them, and like some of the Harvey books, and man, some of the early like 60s Marvels, because my cousin was cleaning a garage and found a whole pile of 60s Marvels and just gave them to me, which was awesome. So like Tales to Astonish and things like that. But my grandmother went to like a ton of garage sales, like multiple garage sales, literally every day, and she would just buy everything. She was one of those people who had her house filled with like to the brim everywhere, like little walkways between her rooms. So I would always find comics in the piles, and so I read everything. So I can't like remember like specific like what got me into reading or like specific comics, because I was just reading everything. Westerns, horror, it doesn't matter to me. And I think maybe that's part of why I write in so many genres, is because I started reading in so many genres. I do love them all.
Yeah, so there wasn't a specific one that you're like, hey, I'm going to write comics because this is incredible.
I don't think so. I don't really maybe reading some of like Will Eisner's graphic novels started to get me to like really think of that, because I really love character and he was so strong on character. Um, but at the same time, I mean, things like Tintin and just like ridiculous stuff. Like well, it was only a few years ago that I realized Steve Gerber, like writing Defenders and things like that, was a huge influence on me. To me, in the old days, he was just like, oh, I really like him. But like, I've started recently looking at the way he writes and the way he thought of stories. So I'm not sure that there was a specific issue of Defenders that was like, oh, I got to do this. But I think Defenders was one of the books that got me into thinking I should do this because I love these stories.
Yeah, so how did you start your career if you knew at such a young age? Like what was your career path?
I didn't really know at such a I grew up in the middle of Iowa in a small little town, so I didn't think it was possible to do comics, because I thought you needed to be in New York or know the right person and things like that. So it wasn't until college that I started to get serious about it, and it was just pure happenstance, because I went to the University of Iowa and met Phil Hester, who's a good friend still and a really good creator. And he was already doing comics at a very low level, like during the black and white explosion. And I was like, oh, maybe we could collaborate. And he was like, yeah. So we started doing some things together. And after that, I was kind of off to the races. I took a little break because I wanted to do novels. I still love novels. But yeah, comics are my pure love. There's something about the interaction with the art and like the moments, like I can't even talk about it, but I got some I was just talking to my wife, Colleen Coover. She's a comic creator as well, and I got back some coloring for one of the books I'm doing, an unannounced book. And the coloring is, if you had told me what I wanted in the coloring for it, I would have told you the exact opposite of what got turned in. But it's beautiful and I love it. And it's just like those surprises to me are the things that can just change comics, and like the collaboration with everybody. And everybody talks about like, oh, the collaboration between writer and artist. But like when you do comics, it's the collaboration between writer, artist, colorist, letterist. The letterist can be a huge part of the book. I've worked with some letterers that just changed the book for the better, and that allowed me to do things that like some letterers wouldn't be able to do. So like every part of the team is just fantastic. And it's just, it surprises me always. And it's like, that's the fun of comics, is like turning in a script and then getting something back that you didn't expect but love.
Yeah, well, speaking of incredible color and artists and bringing in the lettering as well, let's jump right into it because I know I have a lot of questions and I'm sure the fans watching as well. Bunny Mask. So that is just an incredible collaboration, and you and Andrea Muti, like the artwork that somehow he makes the watercolors absolutely terrifying. And I find it one of the most fascinating horror books that I've read in years, and I don't even know where to start picking your brain. So for you, where did this monstrous creature of Bunny Mask and the Snitch, where did this come from?
They came from like the very, very first start of it was the cave. Because when I grew up, I told you I grew up in a very small town in Iowa, and there actually was a guy who lived next to like a huge cliff, a huge Iowa cliff. So,
Yeah, yeah. I grew
um,
up in Vermont, so I know what you mean when it's just like
yeah,
it's huge for us,
yeah,
okay?
for us. But he'd long since retired, and he literally spent his days with a hammer and chisel, just chiseling into the side of the mountain, building, just making a cave. And I found it both crazy and fascinating. And like when you're an adult, you're like, oh, he's gonna spend all of his days chipping away at rocks. But when you're a kid, you're like, he's gonna spend all of his days chipping away at rocks, but he might find a spaceship or a living dinosaur, and it's just like, what might you find? And it was a good area for it too, because it was like fossil ridden. So it was like he was uncovering history. Like, and I found it really fascinating. I went into the cave once. I wish I could have gone in more. Probably wasn't the safest cave I've ever been, tunnel cave I've ever been in. He did shore things up, but yeah, I probably should have stayed out. But yeah, I just started to think about like ancient evils and things like that. And I'm very influenced by a lot of like the Korean and Japanese horror films, which I love so much. The mood and to a certain degree also the old Hammer horror films, that always had that intersection of like sensuality and horror, which I find is really fascinating. So all of those elements kind of came together in Bunny Mask.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I kind of got some from Bunny Mask, I got some Ringu like feel, and it might be just because of her hair and the way she just kind of appears, and even like the art style of her. But like I absolutely could see that, and we have one of our ambassadors who's actually in Portland, Oregon, with you, Staples Fine Horror Zine, or Jack as we know him, and all he asks is in all caps, "Is there sickness?" So definitely some awesome fans, and we have Nick from YouTube also just wants to say hi, love your work, Paul. Wondering what your process is like for writing your strong female characters, which is actually one of my questions as well. So it works perfectly.
Wow. I don't know that it's any different. Like I try to remember that everybody, like every single character is a person. And I think at a base level, we all have like, oh, we worry about money, we worry about the future, we worry about this. So I try not to write. Um, I just try to be aware, try to be smart, and try to make people believable. I love characters, and there'll be some questions I'll ask my wife, and she'll go. Usually, she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." But I just think it's important to write characters as people, no matter who they are. Even if I'm writing, like I did a graphic novel, Earth Boy, and it was nothing but aliens except for one Earth Boy, but I can't see like across the universe, everybody worries about what's next. Everybody worries about, you know, do people actually like me? Everybody worries. So as long as you're making people into people, I think that, are they this or are they that isn't as important as are they believable people?
Yeah. And what I love so much about Bunny Mask is she is so vicious and mysterious and violent. And yet there is such, like you said, that feminine and sensual energy to her. Why was it important to you to kind of have that be kind of the focal of the story?
I think it's that edge of danger. Like I think we all like the sensual and pure fear both have that tension of what's next. And that's what I wanted Bunny Mask. I wanted everybody to go, if I could invite Bunny Mask over here tonight, I would invite her over tonight. She would be a great friend. And then she would sit down and you'd go, this is the worst thing I've ever done. I should not have done this. But it seems like a good idea at first because she can be in her own way personable and reachable. But yeah, if she sees a problem, she'll wipe it out hard. And also don't really know what she sees as a problem.
And I do love one of my favorite lines from her is after, she grabs that little girl's teeth and tells her like both her story and the story of the boy, and there's like basically saying like, oh, you should feel better now. I'm great with kids. It's just like, no, you're not, lady. You are not great with kids. Good Lord.
I actually remember writing that line, and he's like, great with kids. And I'm like, oh, I love that line. that line would have stayed through 1,000 rounds of editing. Actually one of my favorite lines. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Oh yeah, it's just too good. And it's just like the way she walks away so confidently, like, I'm great with kids. You're like,
I get it.
you're not though. You're
No,
you're absolutely
absolutely.
terrifying. Yeah. But what I like about it is that she doesn't hold back anything, and I feel like that's where she's good with kids. It's because she's not lying. Like there's nothing for the snitch to get from her, and all
Yeah,
that
there's
kind
a
of stuff.
certain honesty from her that is approachable. I mean, you know what you're going to get. It's just you might not like it.
Yeah. And just the reality of all the relationships. And I love how even when the detective and Tyler are working together, it's one of those things that they still don't tell each other everything because they're still a little like hesitant
Mhm.
about that. And
Yeah.
so for you, like where did those two characters really come from?
A lot of the personality for Tyler, the main one, is like what you were talking about, Andrea's art being so beautiful. When he started turning in the character, like the sketches and things like that, it was like that's when characters start to build in my head. And I think Tyler became a little deeper. Andrea is a huge part of every good artist is a part of the writing of a comic too. And I think that needs to be acknowledged more in this industry. And it's like how I felt about Tyler or even Bunny Mask or Sheriff Tate or anybody, especially B, changed when Andrea was starting to turn the art in, because that's when they that's when they started to cement as people for me. So I think I've wandered off from the actual question. But
No, it's great. And I just like everybody is saying in the chat just how incredible your writing is. And I love the way poetically that both the snitch and Bunny Mask speak. Like it's this very like ethereal yet terrifying way of kind of seeing the world and like expressing it. So it's just absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, that's
And
another like collaboration with like we when I was talking earlier about letterers, because it's hard for a letterer to make language seem like it's from the other, but still make it very legible. And that's the line that has to be done, because I've seen so many books where I'm like, oh, the lettering is so beautiful, but I do not know what it says. And that's one thing you sort of need. And I don't even like the reader to have to slow down on lettering, because at that point, the words themselves, rather than the story, is the pacer. And I think the story has to be the pacer. So yeah, keeping Bunny Mask and the Snitch legible while making them seem creepy was something that Taylor just did an amazing job on.
yeah, and the stress of when the snitch is so many different voices and so many different things saying where you can read the word bubbles, but they're starting to like go out of the edge of the panel and start like overlapping. You start feeling that stress that both the sheriff and Tyler are having. It's just
Mhm.
it's wonderful work. So everybody in the chat is asking, and of course you don't need to spoil too much, but we do know there's a volume 2 on its way. What can you tell us so far about Bunny Mask volume 2?
Not much. Relationships cement and fall apart. Uh, the main villain is called the Hollow, who, like, when I was talking about fears, he's, I think, something that everybody fears. When the Hollow strikes, he literally erases you from existence. Nobody will know that you existed. There's just a hollow spot where you were. There's no photographs, there's no video, there's no memory in anybody's heads. There's nothing of you left. And I think that's a fear for everybody, of like, I've left no mark. I it made no difference that I existed. And that's why I think he's kind of terrifying for me. When I do horror, and I love doing horror, I do try to like play to the more personal fears. Like when I watch horror and it's like, oh, what's the bad guy trying to do? He's trying to wipe out the universe. And I'm like, I don't
It's
care.
not personal enough, yeah.
Yeah, but if the horror is trying to cut off all my fingers are very personal, or he's trying to steal my cat. It's like, oh no, and it's like, on a grand scale of things, steal your cat versus destroy the universe. should be no decision, but I'll fight that guy that wants to steal my pet first.
Yeah. I love it. So, as Mike Clark, our ambassador from Pennsylvania, mentioned, one of the newest titles from you, and that is just blowing the waters out, everybody's so excited about it, is My Date with Monsters. So, this is a very different flavor because it has a little bit of everything. It has a little romance, has a little horror, has a little sci-fi.
Mhm.
So, I don't even want to describe it. I want to hear what,
Oh
like,
no.
your description. I don't want to get into it because I find it so fascinating, and I know everybody here wants to hear it from you. So tell us about this title because we have issue 1 out and issue 2 is out very soon.
Yeah. Boy, Mike really hit it on the head when he talked about how many genres there were, and it's actually hard for me to describe. This is like one of those where I like when I originally sent the pitch into Mike, I'm like, I'll just send you the first issue script because that explains it better than I can encapsulate. Sometimes stories are hard to encapsulate, but it's basically about Risa Himura, who was a dream researcher, and dreams went wrong, and dreams are invading the world now. And in order to save the world, because of circumstances, she literally needs to fall in love. So her life is about fighting monsters and finding true love. And she doesn't like either side of it, basically, is because finding true love can be just as hard. I mean, we've all gone through relationships that, like at the end of the relationship, it would be like, oh, do I want to see that person tonight? Or do I want to fight a 10-foot tall org? Nah, I'm going to go for the org.
Yeah, much prefer that because it shows
Yeah.
just like how terrifying, but the horror of both dating and fighting monsters all
Mhm.
in one. And
Yeah.
yes, as Paul mentioned, to be able to save the world and actually like close these like basically portals that are getting ripped through of having the dreams come to life. And as we know, not all dreams are good dreams.
Mhm.
So for you, where did this storyline come from? Of just like because it's such a huge world and a huge concept, and it's incredible. Where I want to dive into your brain. Where did this come from?
Um, my love of mythology, really, like I can remember growing up, um, uh, my little tiny Floyd, Iowa library, school library had a whole section of like Greek and Roman gods and things like that. So I would always read through those, and that became like slowly became like other world cultures of less the gods are less fascinating to me now, and more like the Japanese yokai and the terrors that come out at night. There's like every culture seems to have a here's the ones that protect us mythology, but they also have a and here's the bad ones mythology, and I like the bad ones. Like, and you mentioned like Ring, like I just a terrifying, creatures like that, and I like that. And in a way, like you mentioned, that Bunny Mask and My Date with Monsters are hugely different. In some ways, I don't see them different because they're both that connection between relationships and romance, and it's like it's intense in different ways in the two books. But it's a thing that I really like, and maybe that's from growing up in the Hammer horror films, because there was always like some village girl that was like, maybe I will just let the vampire into the room, maybe that wouldn't be so bad, and
Like,
it's
what could happen? Yeah.
like
And tell us a little bit about Croak, because there are some monsters that are very helpful, like Croak. So where did kind of his like character come from for you?
I always kind of like bad guys who are good guys. It's like almost back to what we were talking on Bunny Mask. It's like we can't really understand if she's good or bad because she has different perspectives of those things. And then Croak to me is sort of the same. His what he wants to do aligns with what Risa wants to do. But in many ways, it's because she fights monsters and he gets to eat them. And he likes eating. He's a creature that he's a calorie-driven hero, basically, in a way. He can eat the dead yokai, and he's seen his true name is Hethri, the Bridge Dweller. So he's sort of a troll to a certain extent, except instead of between like a troll under the bridge in Southampton or something, he's a troll beneath the bridge that connects the two realities.
I love it. So we have some questions here. Actually, these are more general questions just for you. So we have another one of our ambassadors, Mitch Gerwitz. He asked, "Does Paul and his wife ever help each other's books?"
Um, Yeah, to a certain extent. Hi, Mitch, by the way. Good to hear from you. Uh, for the most part, we stay pretty separate. We co-write a book called Rassle Castle that we work together on. That goes back and forth, but like we do Bandette, which is one of Hugh Eisner's, and I'm really proud of the work on Bandette. And I'm the writer on that, and she's the artist. And she doesn't hear or see anything about the scripts before I give it to her. Even though we're in the same room, I don't discuss it at all. I'm a very control driven writer. I'm not quite an Alan Moore. My scripts aren't like, here's a script for a 22-page book, and the script is 300 pages long. But it is maybe 40 pages long. I like to call the shots, and I like control. But I also like when an artist says, I do what you said and it didn't work, so I changed it. That's fine too.
So you always make sure that your projects are completely finished before you show it to your wife.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I love it. And then we, again, from our Portland, Oregon ambassador, Jack asks, what's Portland like as an active comic book creator?
Well, the past 2 years, it hasn't been much.
Hasn't been much, yeah.
Pretty fantastic. I mean, literally the reason that Colleen and I moved here is because of the comics community. Growing up in, like I mentioned that I met Phil Hester in Iowa, but like Phil and I were about it. Whereas Colleen and I did a visit to Portland to see what it would be like. And we ended up the very first night at a dinner with a whole bunch of people, Matt Wagner, I can remember, and some others. And it was like, oh, okay, this is what comics community is. And like, even going to the grocery store can be a convention here. It's like, oh, there's a creator, there's a creator, there's a creator. We're all over, and it's kind of fun. There's so many creators here that someone will like mention a creator, and I'll go, oh, where do they live? And it's like, oh, they've lived in Portland for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at, Colleen was telling me about, I was looking at some art that I really loved the other day, and I'm like, oh, this artist is really good. And Colleen said she literally lives 3 blocks from here. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely the comic creator capital of the US for sure. Oh, and back to specifically for My Date with Monsters, Mike Clark is in the chat and just wants to say, I like that Croak has vested interest. He advises Risa on love, but also to eat her dream monsters. Like he's helpful on 2 fronts.
Yeah, he's an all-purpose friend.
Yeah. Well, Paul, it's been such a pleasure. I've been so excited to talk to you about these like monstrous hits that we have from you. So just thank you so much for joining. Thank you for bringing these titles to us. We're just so glad to have you on board. Is there any other titles or any other projects that you want to promote here that you're involved in?
Well, the Rassle Castle. I'm in that phase where I'm like, oh, these 2 for sure. No, wait, they haven't been announced.
Yeah, like, wait, yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the main ones. Rassle Castle, my work on Plants vs. Zombies. This is, again, like I write for all ages, and I write horror because I love stuff. One of the upcoming books that I can't talk about is Pure Crime. I love a good crime story. So yeah, that's all I can think of right offhand. I'm sure like we're going to hang up from this and I'm going to go, oh no.
You're like, oh no, there's this, and this, and this. Well, until then, where can people find you on the social media? So that way you can tell them there if you've forgotten any.
Yeah, just Paul Tobin on Twitter. That's really the only social media that I do. I only have a certain amount of time in a day to do social media. And plus it's like so intriguing to see what other friends are doing. That's like, oh, I'll just check what my friends are doing. Whoops, that was 6 hours. So I stay pretty much on Twitter, but I have a lot of fun there. So yeah, anybody that wants to join up and see the updates, please do.
Absolutely. And for any of those who haven't yet picked up Buddy Mask, all 5 issues are still available at your local comic book shop. And the next season will be coming out in 2022, as well as My Date with Monsters. #1 is still available. And the 2nd issue will be available in just a couple weeks on December 15th. So Paul, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Great. And for everybody watching, stay tuned because we're going to have our live sale with some awesome Bunny Mask exclusives as well as My Date with Monsters exclusives. Oh, hey guys. guys, it's Rue from the Aftershock Epicenter again. I just wanted to remind you that we have a live streamed Epicenter every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about all the titles coming out for New Comic Book Day, as well as all the awesome announcements that we have. And don't forget, we have yet another happy hour for this year on December 16th with the incredible Frank Tieri. So make sure you join us on Thursday, December 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Pour yourself a drink, chat with Frank, and then we'll have a live sale. Speaking of the live sale, let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aftershock Happy Hour. And now it is time for the world famous live sale. We have some awesome stuff for you. So I'm going to go through all the items that we have available and their quantities. I'm going to go through it one time, and then we will open up the sale items so that way you can add all of them to your cart at the same time before I go into more detail about them. So first up, we have The Maniac of New York, The Bronx is Burning, #1, Happy Hour exclusive by Mike Ruth. And there's only 200 of these available at $15 each. Again, this is only time in these 24 hours you can get it at this awesome price, as well as the My Date with Monsters Happy Hour exclusive by Mike Ruth. Again, $15 only, but we only have 100 of those left, so still very exclusive. We also have the My Date with Monsters Ambassador variant. Speaking of our awesome ambassadors, there's only 50 of these left, 50, and we're going to do them only for $10 for the next 24 hours. And last but not least, we have the awesome Bunny Mask t-shirts, whoop whoop, both in black and white, and they usually sell for $25, but we're only going to do them for $20 here for the next 24 hours, and there's only 100 left of each, so this is a great time to get those. So we're going to open up the sale and add them as fast as you can because there's not many left, and then let's go into more description of this awesome stuff, and I'm going to have the chat open if you have any questions. Oh yes, my producer's talking to me. Oh, my apologies. I did the wrong price for the My Date with Monsters Happy Hour variant. That is, or sorry, the Ambassador variant that is actually $15, not 10, because we actually already sold out of all the $10 version when we did it quite a while back. So $15 each for that as well. So all awesome stuff. Yes, Jack, I know you're asking for the bunny mask pin. Unfortunately, at this point, until we have it available in the shop again, you can only pick it up when we're at C2E2 next weekend. So if any of those Chicagoans are available to go run over there, there's some great bunny mask pins, but we actually weren't able to do this. And then just double checking if there's any other question. I see Lady Grayson says, "Oh man, this one is going to break the bank on me." Yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff here. So what is the site? The site is our usual site of AftershockComics.com. You can get all of this stuff available. Since it's going to Chicago first, we weren't going to be able to ship it out to you guys in time. So as soon as we get back from C2E2, we'll have however many left available, and hopefully order some more because it's really good stuff. So again, starting from the top, we have Maniac New York, The Bronx is Burning #1 by Mike Ruth. And this is the continuation of Maniac Harry's just murderous spree. So at the end of our last season of the Maniac of New York, he disappeared from the train. It looks like he actually ended up in the Bronx in a Bronx high school. So it's stepping away a little bit from the very specific, connotation of Friday the 13th, Jason in New York. I think that was #8. So this is going to be a little bit less of that, and now we're going to see more of New York City proper. And I'm actually a little excited because that is the most time I spent in New York was in the Bronx. And yes, oh good. I'm so glad that everybody is going to check us out. Lady Grayson, I see you're going to see us at C2E2. Yay! I look forward to meeting you in person. And cheers from Germany, Christoph. Glad you could make it. And yes, next up is My Dates with Monsters Happy Hour exclusive by Mike Ruth for $15. And as we heard from Paul Tobin, this is a really fun mashup of all sorts of genres about somebody who was working scientifically with dreams and ended up accidentally opening up these rifts in time and space where dreams actually come to life. And the only way to stop this and to heal everything is to have your dreams come true. And it starts off with the patient zero, basically, of Risa, who needs to find true love, which is just as terrifying, if not more terrifying, than fighting monsters. So as it shows, is dating and fighting monsters equally as terrifying. I'm just checking out all the chat here. Oh, thank you. Max Cage says Monsters is another great book. Love the first issue. Good to hear that. And the second issue will be in shops on December 15th. We also have the My Date with Monsters Ambassador variant for $15. We only have 50 of these left, 50, so not many of these left. We usually do a very small run. And as you met earlier, Mike Clark, what we do is these are specifically given to the retailers that are part of the ambassador program, and they get 2 issues to do with as they will, to just thank them for being a part of the Aftershock family. So if you can't get them here, if you know your local comic book shop is an ambassador shop, make sure to ask your local retailer about that, and hopefully they can get it to you there as well. And last but not least, we have the white and black bunny mask t-shirts. You can see I'm wearing one of them right now. Absolutely love it. Super comfy. We usually sell them for $25 on our website, but for the next 24 hours, we're only going to sell it for only $20. And there's only 100 left of each color. So, but we have them in all the sizes available. We have from extra small to 3XL. So hopefully you'll be able to grab yours as well. So guys, I think that'll do it, but thank you so much for joining us here on the Aftershock Happy Hour and Live Sale. Whatever platform you're watching on, make sure that you subscribe, hit that notification bell, so every time we come back, you'll be here with us. For the next one, we're going to be back here on December 16th with the incredible Frank Tieri. I actually just got the Tales of Mother F. Goose in the mail today, so I'll be reading that after that stream. And Mitch, thank you so much for joining. Thank you everybody for joining. And while you're out there, happy holidays. Make sure you stay safe, wash your hands, wear your mask, and only read dangerously. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining, and we are so stoked to see all of you at Chicago just next weekend, December 10th through the 12th for C2E2. We're going to have all of our books, including some awesome exclusives, including some beautiful metal covers. So we look forward to seeing you then, and we'll have more information for you for this coming Epicenter on Tuesday. We'll see you then.